Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brock Beard from LastCar.info, and welcome to Behind the Wall, the post-race show that comes on after the race and the post-race show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today at the conclusion of the Great Outdoors 400 Great American Getaway 400, excuse me, where unofficially, pending the results of post-race inspection, Chase Briscoe has now scored his first win for Joe Gibbs Racing, his third career Cup Series win, and punches his ticket into those lovely playoffs. Chase Briscoe, again, a tremendous victory for him, leading almost half the distance, 72 of 160 laps. There's a lot to be said, of course, about the fuel mileage race there at the end. And what has definitely been trending here in just this last time during the post-race show, people not very happy about the car, and I certainly understand that. I still think this is probably not the worst example of the problems with this car. Yes, there were issues where Denny Hamlin seemed like he wasn't able to really close on Briscoe through turns 2 and 3 the same way he was in turn 1, and it more or less kind of stayed the same there at the end. I think the short track package is a much more glaring issue with it, and the racing that we saw back in Michigan showed really the potential of what good racing looks like. This was definitely not of that same caliber. Yeah, we had some good restarts where things were pretty tight up there. I still think the fuel mileage battle was pretty compelling there at the end, and I thought the fact that Amazon Prime shows the finish of these races uninterrupted without commercial breaks, and you can actually see the little differences there as, Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney were trying to track down Chase Briscoe at the end. I still found that just as compelling. Same deal what we had last week in Mexico City where Shane Van Gisbergen had pulled off such a tremendous victory by more than 16 seconds over Christopher Bell. Again, I think I've seen plenty of races in previous generations of this car that have produced races like that at Pocono. So I didn't find that quite as flagrant as perhaps others may have in that sense. But I do agree, with the consensus that, there's a lot that needs to be done with this car, and there's plenty of things we could point at there. I mean, obviously, if the car had way more horsepower and you got to reel this thing in going into the first corner there, that would be a very different kind of racing than we saw from this past weekend there. But again, I think given the limitations of this car, and so forth, I thought I was pretty entertained by this race, and I'm going to keep it straight with you guys. I'm not trying to say anything to, go with the consensus or just try to be, make myself popular in this sense here. I didn't really have too many problems with this one here, and I think even the share of mechanical issues I thought were pretty compelling in this race too. Brake issues, my goodness. Same problems that we've had over at Gateway in recent years. Seeing this come out in this particular race here where you had just brake problems left and right, especially for 2311, with spectacular brake failures for both Riley Herbst and then later Bubba Wallace in turns 1 and 2 respectively, and waiting for the other shoe to drop with Tyler Reddick's team. They actually did a pretty proactive thing by bringing his car behind the wall and having them actually look at the brake rotor and try to figure out what was going on, and really kind of address it there. Ultimately, he lost 2 laps in that situation, only got 1 of those laps back. Indeed, he was about to be lapped by Briscoe at the finish of this race here, and we could have had a very different situation there as well for him. So he wasn't fully able to recover from that issue. However, at the same time, the car is still in one piece. Thankfully, he and his teammates weren't injured in their incidents there at the same time. But again, kind of a crazy situation there. Again, this is a track that's always been very mechanically demanding. Bubba Wallace himself has had that very serious accident in turn 1 back when he drove for the Petties a few years ago there too. And again, I thought that made things, kind of interesting. You wouldn't hope for mechanical situations, but I think that when, these teams are racing and they're trying to get every advantage they can, and they're put in this really limited situation, one thing you always see whenever they take a picture of a new paint scheme is they're going to cover up the wheels. If the wheels are taken off the car, they're going to try to hide the suspension as best they can, because that's probably the last area that they can really have any latitude in making those adjustments and so forth. And this was another example. And then sometimes when you make those adjustments, you go a little bit too far in that sense. I think something could be said about still not having enough practice compared to, in previous generations, that such an issue probably should have been discovered before the race and not during the race itself. Yes, we did have a practice session coming into it, but I mean, I would assume that if you're running the exact same package and you had a second practice, like at happy hour, maybe some of these brake issues could have been discovered earlier, and these teams would have been able to make that repair earlier. I think in that sense, there, yeah, that's something else that you could certainly argue that would have been much more favorable rather than these teams tearing up their cars at the exact same time. But yeah, I definitely see where people are frustrated about the way this race played out and the fact that it wasn't a situation. I see the comment there, Beast of Metal mentioning there about Hamlin saying that he got bogged down when he was trying to track him down. I imagine we're going to hear even more about that in his podcast this week here. Yeah, you definitely, there is such a thing as having a really competitive Pocono race. Was this the best one that they've had? No, there isn't. It certainly wasn't. But again, I thought the fuel mileage thing was interesting. And especially when Steve Letarte was gushing about this great pit stop that Chase Briscoe. I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how fast his pit stop was and so forth. Even while the crew chief is just kind of losing his mind on the pit box saying like, we didn't get enough fuel in there. That's compelling, and I thought that was really interesting there at the end. He should have, again, yeah, whether or not he should have had his doors blown off there by Hamlin or Blaney at the end, that's one thing or another. But Briscoe was still hanging on there as best he could. And I don't know how much closer he was to it because he was still able to do a burnout at the finish. He did pick up a lapped car at the very end there with Ty Dillon in front of him to try to, still stay ahead there. So he had some advantages at the same time. But again, I thought it was compelling. I thought it was interesting, but I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, this is the greatest Pocono race ever. No, it isn't. But again, I thought that with the flaws of this car, I was entertained. I'm going to be completely frank about it, and that's kind of where I come from there. But obviously, yeah, if they had more horsepower, if the aero wasn't such a significant issue, if Hamlin and Blaney could have got around Briscoe and Briscoe had to really flog his car and be able to try to keep up there with fuel, yeah, that would have admittedly been more interesting, but that just wasn't the situation that we were presented with here. So hopefully something gets worked out there. It's again, I think there's just much more egregious examples of the limitations of this car. And I don't think this race was particularly the worst example of it. I've seen plenty of races at Pocono where they weren't very entertaining either. I'm kind of repeating myself here, but, you take my point there. So, again, good for Briscoe, getting his first win with the Gibbs team here since the shift over. I think that his streak of pole positions the last few weeks, I was kind of remarking this with Lastbro, kind of reminded me when Kurt Busch, who was incidentally our Grand Marshal today, he had a streak of poles in 2011, and then he didn't win a pole for Sears Point during that streak, and I think he started like 11th or 12th, and then he came out and he won that race. It almost kind of reminded me of that. Indeed, Briscoe ended up losing his pole streak last week at Mexico City, so it was a little bit older before this, and then comes out this time around, starts sixth in this race and pulls off the victory. Regardless, good for him pulling off the win. Track that he'd won in the Xfinity Series before. I liked following the strategy. I liked there were a little bit of pitfalls and screw ups along the way. Brad Keselowski coming down pit road. Don't know why the Prime booth was kind of missing some of the storylines along the way, like the reports that Carson Hocevar had pulled a fake on Keselowski there, coming back on the track there, and Keselowski coming back down pit road there. Almost seemed to snag up William Byron at the exact same time there too. And the driver's just not sure about when pit road was open or closed or anything. Ultimately, Keselowski coming back and finishing in the 9th spot. Kind of similar to the pit road issue with Briscoe. I'm kind of surprised that, again, there seemed to be a little bit of a disjoint between the pit reporters and the reporters in the booth. I don't know what exactly the reason was, but those were a couple pretty flagrant examples there where it just kind of broke down a little bit. Not something that I think made it a terrible broadcast at all. Certainly, the Prime crew deserves every bit of celebration that was presented there at the end for how much they've moved the needle these last few races since taking over for Fox. I think they did a great job starting out here. There's definitely things that need to be worked on, things that can be polished up. But I think that, they've really made a good statement here. coming into races where maybe these aren't necessarily the most big name events. Obviously, the Mexico City race, easily the biggest marquee event of the schedule that they carved out. But I think that they made it, and that's probably one of the other reasons I don't feel that bad about this particular finish, is the combination of, not having a bunch of commercials at the end of the race, breaking it up, and decent commentary. I'll give full credit to Adam Alexander, Steve Letarte, and Dale Jr. I think they did a decent enough job of making that interesting at the end, even if there weren't really any passes, and it just seemed like it was more or less, it wasn't over. I mean, again, anybody could have run out of fuel. I felt invested. I felt invested in what was happening, and I felt interested in what was going on, and I can't really fault it too much. Now, whether or not I should have felt that way, that's, I guess, a different conversation that you could certainly make. So, again, I took much more issue with being updated on what was happening on pit road, what was happening with the strategy. But again, I think that they were, when it came down to the actual stretch run to the finish, they covered that probably about as good as you could really expect to, I think, under the circumstances. So very happy with what the Prime crew did here, even though, again, the weakest spot of it is still the booth. As much as I know a lot of people love Adam Alexander, you can still have Steve Letarte talking a mile a minute, and it kind of conflates with Junior getting excited, and it just becomes a lot of noise, kind of like we had problems on NBC before. And I still think Adam Alexander is a little bit too relaxed to be doing the commentary. But I do think in the mix of this, it's still way ahead of where we were with Fox earlier this year. And I do agree that they took it way more serious, despite Adam Alexander busting into laughter every 5 seconds. That just shows how far off the mark we'd been with Fox earlier this year. That even that was a significant improvement there. Still not as good as it could be. It's still the brand new car with the plush seats with the old tires on it. I still think that's the best metaphor to what we had here. But again, hopefully that improves in time. They're just starting out. Maybe they just kind of get them in there to kind of lay the groundwork for it. And then as comfortable as they get, they'd be more open to bringing new talent in. And I think I think that's the missing piece that would get the Prime broadcast right up to where their full potential. But they're already head and shoulders above Fox, undeniably. And I think that this was a very significant moment in the sports history. I think that first punch has been landed, and the countdown's already started. And for Fox coming into next year, or NBC even later this year, they really got to make sure to be on their P's and Q's, because this is going to be the new standard. And people are going to really hold them to it. And whether or not that's realistic or practical, they're going to have to adjust to it as best they can. And that's going to be really the important thing coming up there. So Chase Briscoe with the victory, Denny Hamlin in the second spot, Ryan Blaney in third, Chris Buescher in fourth, Chase Elliott in fifth. John Hunter Nemechek continues a strong start for the Legacy Motor Club. I think that was probably one of the best driver angles that the Prime crew really covered in this stretch run here, was, again, how well that organization has been doing. Nemechek in the sixth spot. Eric Jones, his teammate, in 13th, gets back up into the threat for the top 16 in points. However, he's still a bit further back of the battle with Ryan Preece and the drivers closer to the bubble there. However, still a good improvement for his part of the season here, showing how much that team's been improving this season. Got Kyle Larson in seventh, and then Ryan Preece as well, joining his teammate Brad Keselowski in the top 10. Actually joining both of his teammates, Buescher in fourth and Keselowski in the ninth spot. Preece, again, driver very close. I'd say probably closer than Nemechek to pulling off his first win. It seems like he's been right in there, right in the mix, especially since the spring here, to really kind of get things going. We'll find out if things turn around there for him, in either in the TNT stretch or anything beyond it there. But really interesting to see. And Austin Cindric rounding out your top 10. Back in the field was interesting. Again, talking about the brake failures that happened in this one. Again, not something that's been unusual for Pocono, but perhaps unusual for it seeming to target a single team. Riley Herbst ends up being your last place finisher, pending the results of post-race inspection. His first last place run since he finished last at Phoenix earlier this year. Bubba Wallace with a similar issue in turn 2 ends up with him in the 36th spot. Both their cars parked not far from each other in the infield garage there. Herbst with the first last place run for the number 35 in the history of Cup Series races at Pocono. 35 actually doesn't have that many last place runs in NASCAR in general, so kind of an interesting way that all that is shaken out there. Then you had Michael McDowell having a brake failure of his own on the front straightaway, and NASCAR not throwing the caution flag. This didn't really get discussed as much as the caution for Van Gisbergen that really scrambled things up there towards the end and kind of put Briscoe in the driver's seat. I would say not throwing the caution for McDowell's incident, at least not right away. Eventually, debris was spotted and the caution came out, but it was at least a couple laps later. Who knows what effect that could have had on the strategy there at the same time. Ultimately, for McDowell, it ended up shortening his day anyway, going to the garage area. But again, I thought a very proactive effort by 2311 to get Tyler Reddick in the garage and check his brakes. But again, that still to me felt like something that could have been done in practice. That's, again, something that still needs to be kind of worked out coming up there. Brennan Poole coming back to drive in the Cup Series here, this time around with the New York Racing Team, ends up in the 34th spot, and Ty Dillon rounding out your bottom five there at the same time. So DNFs for the brake failures for McDowell, Wallace, and Herbst. A drivetrain failure listed as the reason out for Brennan Poole. He pulled into the garage about 30 or so laps to go. Wasn't sure if he needed to get out of the car or not, but ultimately ends up in the last spot. Ty Dillon, again, finishing the race under power, though 10 laps down with a toe link issue on the right rear after an incident exiting turn 2. Was intrigued by Brennan Poole at the very beginning of it. The last place battle at the start was settled between Poole and Cody Ware. Poole had 3 inspection failures leading into this race. The car passed on the 4th run through, but however, that meant that they lost their car chief, they lost pit selection. They basically got every penalty at the book thrown at them, short of not starting the race at all. But Poole had to end up doing a trip down pit road, was 23 seconds behind Cody Ware, closed into just 8 seconds behind Ware by the end of stage 1. That was a really interesting battle to cover. Kudos to NASCAR for having a leaderboard that actually shows the drivers and the cars like where they are on the track. That really helped, especially once Poole got lapped around lap 19 and you no longer had the time intervals there from the leaderboard. Again, it's always kind of something you have to be resourceful with, all in the last place battles out there, and this was definitely another example of it. But I found that really compelling. It would have been interesting to see if Poole could have actually caught Cody Ware there at the end, because Ware himself was also losing touch with the cars in front of him and was about 5 or 6 seconds back, but ultimately held on and got the lucky dog there at that same time. Cody Ware ends up finishing the race in the 29th spot, still on the lead lap. Kudos to that team as well for recovering from their wreck in turn 3 and the damage to the rear of that car. A bit of a recovery there for him as well. Let's see here. I'm just wondering why am I not hearing? Okay, no, I'm hearing myself in the speakers here. I sound a lot deeper than I think I do. I don't know. There's something on my sound that's throwing me off. I don't know why that is. Okay, anyway, pushing through. Let's see here. So, yeah, again, the Brennan Poole and Cody Ware situation was kind of your deal there at the last place battle. However, again, the Riley Herbst brake failure ended up being your last place finisher today. So again, waiting for the results from post-race inspection. We'll find out how big that fuel cell was or was not in Briscoe's car. We have seen issues with that before at Pocono. You remember, of course, the tape issue that Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch had with the spec parts here a couple of years ago, and then that win ended up getting handed over to Chase Elliott. So again, will we see another last change here at the end of the day? We'll find out one way or the other. I think that'll be something to look at here at the same time. Looking through other drivers that had some good runs, Josh Berry did a fine job, climbing from 35th in the lineup to 12th at the finish. So kudos to him there. We talked about Eric Jones already with having a good run. Carson Hocevar with a great save off of turn 3. Nearly skated that thing into the wall. And again, Prime showing another of their strengths this year. Multiple camera angles of this incident and brought up very shortly after it happened. Was a great job with that. So the production crew there doing a fine job. That camera below the wall there and seeing him skate that car out and then just kind of getting pointed back the right direction. Great job with that. Drivers struggling as you look further back. Ross Chastain, we saw him drop off the pace at one point. Never really recovered from whatever that incident was. He ended up in the 26th spot there at the finish. Kyle Busch, just again, after his last place run in Mexico City, continuing to struggle this time around here. Had a spin off of turn 2, being part of that incident there. Some damage on the right rear of his car. Never really recovered from that, finishing in the 20th spot. Christopher Bell looked like he was going to be in the mix, had some nose damage. I didn't think it was going to be that serious. The booth seemed to be very concerned about it. And ultimately, I got to give it to the booth. They were right, because Bell didn't really recover from that, finishing in the 17th spot. I don't really think about Bell having really a bad track. It seems like he's kind of elevated himself to the position of one of these drivers you pretty much have to look at just about every week. However, it just wasn't in the cards for him here. He ends up finishing a bit further back. Ty Gibbs, not able to kind of keep his streak going after the top 5 at Michigan, and looking so good at Mexico City last week as well. But again, a 14th place finish, given how he had started this year. Still a fine, a solid run there too. A run that I'm sure he'd probably be disappointed by. But again, hopefully he'll turn things around, and Briscoe lighting a fire under him here as well by having another of his teammates pull off a Cup Series win this year. We'll see if things turn around in Atlanta, or perhaps further down the line from there. So we'll see what the story is at that point. We saw Ricky Stenhouse up front briefly. That was good to see for the Hayek Motorsports effort. They were up there, however, ends up getting scaled back to the 30th spot there for Stenhouse. Other drivers that were in the mix there. Cole Custer qualified great after his top 10 run in Mexico City. Hoped that maybe he could kind of keep things going. However, he ends up dropped back to the 22nd spot there at the finish. Again, drivers moving up and down, kind of to be expected there, but kind of an interesting mix there along the way. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, the battle with Stenhouse, Logano, and Hocevar was pretty entertaining to see. Marcus Hurtado. Yeah, again, I kind of like Mexico City. I mean, it was, and I think this is yet another thing with Prime is, back when we saw in Mexico City, one of the best aspects of that broadcast I felt was how much they showed the middle of the pack, and how much they showed drivers that were running over each other and trying to keep up versus, just watching the leaders, or, just kind of missing things when they happen. In this race here too, same deal. We saw a lot of great battles in the thick of it. And that was really interesting to see play out. Again, not the best race ever, but again, my goodness, imagine this were a 500-mile race. I mean, would that have shaken things up anymore at the front? Probably not. The Gibbs cars seemed like they pretty well had this in their back pocket, as long as the cars held together there. At the same time, maybe we would have seen Ty Gibbs improve and get up there with his teammates. But I'm sure Ryan Blaney was happy that it wasn't apparently a cool suit failure at the beginning of the race, and having to deal with it the rest of the way. Certainly hope he's recovering well. There were reports on social media that he was not feeling well there on pit road, had to sit down during some interviews. But undoubtedly, there's crews there keeping an eye on him and making sure he's getting some fluids in him there. It's not a dangerous situation. He was obviously conscious, able to do interviews. But again, his friend Bubba Wallace had the same situation after his Cup debut back in 2017? Or no, 2016, I guess it was, where he was doing interviews and passed out there. So unseasonable, well, I guess I wouldn't say unseasonable warmth out there. It's June now, but definitely difficult weather for everybody to deal with on top of that. So looking through the field there, that's more or less, kind of the story of the race. Some races are just open and shut. And again, that's where, I think that we do need to return to full season points there to kind of really emphasize that once again. Punching a ticket in the playoffs, we don't need to emphasize that transactional element, just celebrating what's happening. I do want to kind of talk a little bit about, I don't know how the best way to present this in order, given that it's been such a busy week news-wise there for sure, especially, kind of in the motorsports side of it here. But, the interview between Kenny Wallace and Mark Martin has certainly dominated a lot of the discussions this week. And I do want to kind of weigh in on that at the same time. First of all, the thing I couldn't help but notice in watching that interview, I really felt like I was watching my own show from hearing from Mark Martin. It was so refreshing to hear somebody And again, this didn't come out of nowhere because Mark has been very outspoken about, kind of, the benefits of a full season point system, the aesthetics of having the numbers on the middle of the door, and, kind of getting that aspect in there. And I thought Mark's interview was really, it was vindicating, because yeah, he's always had a very good eye on the history of the sport, and trying not, the sport not straying too far from it. And, saying all the right deals there with, okay, look, it's not the playoffs. We don't play racing. It's racing. It's a whole different deal. And why do we have to be kind of piggybacking on the Richard Petty interview that got played a lot this week? Why was NASCAR so eager to throw themselves in with stick and ball sports and be the small fish in the big pond rather than be its own thing, which was successful in that framework? I thought it was refreshing to hear. And it was what I really wanted, and I didn't really get in this interview, was on Kenny Wallace's side. Now, I'll give Kenny full credit for letting Mark Martin share his thoughts and be out there. But I don't know how many of you got, and I don't know how many of you guys actually, have a chance to listen to it, because I know it's a long interview, and it's only been out a few days here. But what I got from when I listened to it, it didn't really feel like a conversation to me. It felt like every time I like that Kenny Wallace let Mark Martin get his thoughts across and bring things up, but it felt like every time Kenny talked, he was just kind of saying, oh, what you're saying is this. He was just kind of, he wasn't actually kind of like having a discussion with him or disagreeing with him. And that was kind of odd to me, because, Kenny's been very outspoken with his Coffee with Kenny segment and his podcast and so forth. And, he seems to have pretty firm ideas about, what the direction the sport should be, what does and doesn't matter, what are, and I think it's kind of butted heads with people that have had the viewpoint of Mark Martin. And I see where some people, and I think others have noticed this, because there were some that had frustrations with how, Kenny kind of put, Mark Martin's viewpoint into, oh, you're just representing the older race fans. It's like, oh, only older race fans want the old point system. They want like the number in the middle of the door. They want TV to have less control over it. And I don't sense that, because I've said this a lot here on this show. There are fans much younger than myself who are extremely knowledgeable about this sport, who'd have much more than just a casual interest in the sport, and have an informed interest in that old point system or the way the sport was, or they look back to the way the cars raced and wanting to see that today and recognizing that difference. And so I do think it's painting in broad strokes to say, oh, Mark Martin's just speaking for older race fans. It's really not that case. And indeed, Mark Martin put that poll out about the 36 race point system, and the vast majority of a pretty large sample size, even larger than I believe Scene Vault did one as well, had a very large sample size out there, was overwhelmingly for the 36 race points paying system. So, but that was kind of the thing. What I really hoped what I was going to hear was more Kenny Wallace's viewpoint on, like, I never really heard him contradict or something and say, it's like, well, Mark, do you think that's really important? Like, I think it should be this. I never really heard that in that interview. And maybe that's just showing, I would understand it from a level of respect that, okay, maybe he doesn't want to contradict Mark Martin. Like, I'm sure the two of them are good friends. They said as much in the interview. I understand that. But I mean, but again, you could disagree and still be friends. They even said that in the interview, which I totally am on board with. But I never really got, if I had watched that and had never seen an interview with Kenny Wallace before, I really would have never understood what Kenny's view of all that would be. And I was really hoping to kind of get that, because I think Kenny gets a lot of these accusations of being, being more just like, a NASCAR mainstay. Like, he's just going to always toe the line with NASCAR's viewpoint on things. And I remember, to an extent, in some situations, I remember when him and Jimmy Spencer were making fun of Regan Smith about going below the yellow line at Talladega. And, like, they would go up on the speed booth and they wear the judges' robes and the big wigs and stuff. And they were kind of just, kind of poking fun at this rules thing, as if it wasn't, kind of a pretty big stance that NASCAR took in taking that win away from him there. I know I have not seen eye to eye with Kenny Wallace on a lot of things, but I found that strange, and that's where, while I enjoyed listening to Mark Martin, and I think he made several great points, I think I would have really wanted to hear a debate. I was expecting a debate, and I didn't really get one. Maybe I don't know if you guys that have listened to it kind of got the same sense, but that's kind of the way it felt like to me. It was kind of the illusion. It kind of had the illusion of it because again, Kenny would kind of be like, "I'm hearing you say this." It's like, well, that's not a debate. You're just trying to you're just kind of parroting back what the guy's saying to him. I don't know. I found it interesting but unsatisfying at the same time. And this dovetails perfectly into another thing I put out on social media this week that got a bit of traction. And that was the excerpt from Adam Alexander's interview with the Dale Jr. download. Or was it Dale Jr. download or was it Door Bumper Clear? It was one of the ones on the Juniors podcast there. And that was really interesting. So as I've said, and I said it on this show here as well, I've not been a big fan of Adam Alexander's play-by-play. And I think that one of the frustrations I've always had is on the surface, he's like right where he's exactly the kind of person that I would love to do play-by-play, that I think would do a great job because, again, he's a very different personality. He's a younger person out there. He's very excitable. He knows his stuff. Like, again, when you talk about like, a driver for a team, it's not a mystery to him. Even if it's like a team at the back of the pack, he'll have something to say about it like right away. And that's something a lot of, the commentators, the other networks don't do. It's not that, he's a person that doesn't know what he's doing. It's just more a way of like, of how he does it. But I hear from a lot of people that are big fans of his calls. And it really, every time I hear that, I kind of reconsider my position. I'm like, okay, am I just being too critical? Is it just different packaging? Is he doing it kind of the same way that a Ken Squire would do it or that a Bob Jenkins would do it? And I just don't recognize it because maybe it's being done just a little bit in a different way, but the nuts and bolts are the same. But then I heard this interview and I just seen the excerpt. Admittedly, I haven't seen the whole interview. But there's this very interesting moment in it where he talks about back in Mexico City and talking about Ty Dillon and AJ Allmendinger and the Kaulig racing effort. And he was in the middle of trying to say that Kaulig racing has been doing really well, that they've kind of turned things around and it's a road course. So AJ, of course, is doing very well. But he had kind of this in the mind while he was trying to talk about Ty Dillon. And then he felt concerned because he felt concerned that he was making it sound like Ty Dillon wasn't a very good road racer. That he started talking about Ty Dillon, then he shifted over to AJ, and then he shifted over to kind of road courses. And I understand where he's coming from. It's live TV, and maybe the thought comes to your mind. You got a couple different thoughts come together, and they just kind of sound mishmashed. But what he took out of that was he didn't like that. He was making it sound like he was saying something negative about a particular driver. And what he wanted to do, and the reason he extrapolated this was he went into talking about trying to be positive as much as possible, trying to find something positive to say about every driver in the field. I should really just pull up the clip because I'm not articulating it very well. But I thought that was very interesting. And I think it's worthy of this exact same discussion from what was seen here as well. So let me see, where was that? It was just a few days ago. Okay, here it is. So let me get this pulled up, and I'll pull it up on the second screen. So I want to make sure I want to be fair here. I want to make sure I'm not, because another thing with Adam Alexander is he has fun. He's very cordial, but he's also very careful with his words. So I don't want to disrespect that either. But where is it? Where are we going here? I need to get some more water too. I sound really hoarse on the mic here, and I don't know what that is. I think that's what's throwing me off. But we'll get to the second screen here on this. Okay. All right. Hang on, folks. Let me get some water here, and then we'll jump into this clip. Okay, we're here. Okay, good. We're here. Okay, so let me get this clip here. So this is so big thanks to Who Is Skid for saving this clip from it here. But let me jump into this. I'll play this. I don't know if I'll play the whole clip or not, but I'm going to play it at least till I kind of jumpstart my memory of it here. So let's go into it here.
So having said that, when I do my preparation, and I've already started on Pocono, when I go to my notes, I'm trying to find what is the best news I can sell about this guy. I mean, I might look at his cup record at Pocono and like his best finish in 15 races, there's 25th. I don't really want to go down that road. But then I find that he's had back-to-back top fives in Xfinity race. You know what? I'm going to say, hey, his cup record here is not great, but he did have those back-to-back top fives here in Xfinity, so we know what he's capable of. That's how I want to spin it. I mean, I'm every driver's fan. So I say that to say we're at Michigan, and we're doing the race. And colleagues running well as a group. We've celebrated them organizationally. We were even doing.
Okay, we don't need to go through the rest of it. So yeah, it was Michigan was the one where he brought up the Ty Dillon versus AJ Allmendinger thing. So we don't need to go through that part. So again, an interesting viewpoint here about there's a couple things that this reveals here. So I've always talked about the play-by-play and the issues I have with it as being a consequence of bad direction. And to that end, I usually think of like, okay, well, maybe they're being told to do it this certain way, and they're being told to, it's like they're being told to talk about this and not that. And I know they got a voice in their ear, and that makes it tricky, and they all got to work with that and all. But I assumed that they had a big control over it, like saying like, okay, you're only going to be talking about this, and you're not going to be talking about that. What I'm hearing from this interview with Adam is that they have a lot of latitude as to what they can talk about and how they want to view it. At least I'm taking him at his word here. It's like, he has a choice where he could talk about a driver at Pocono and say they haven't run that well there. And it's like, oh, well, they have top 5 finishes in the Xfinity Series, and isn't that great? You want to be like every driver's fan. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's just me from the last place article thing here and having kind of a different viewpoint on this. But I think there is such a thing as being just too positive. And I think this is similar to the Kenny Wallace, Mark Martin thing. I think that there should have been a debate there between Kenny and Mark over kind of their differing viewpoints about what the sport's direction is and what is important. I would have loved to hear Kenny Wallace explain, why he likes the playoffs or why he thinks that a 36 race, point system isn't important anymore, or if it's a good thing that TV has a lot of control over it. Like, he was kind of engaging in it and expressing interest in what Mark said, but we never actually had a debate. We never had like a disagreement there. We had kind of the illusion of it. And this is kind of the same problem here with Adam on this side, because, okay, just when a driver, it's a sport. Let's start from real basic elements here. It's a sport. You're going to have drivers, you're going to have competitors that are good, you're going to have competitors that aren't so good. You're going to have competitors that are good at certain aspects of the sport, but maybe not so good at other ones. I agree with the standpoint of being every driver's greatest fan. I think there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. I think that you should want everybody in the field to do the best they can, but recognize the reality, and I've put this forward as the most cynical standpoint of a race, that a race is really ultimately the process of watching every single driver in that field lose it until the last person standing wins the race. That's really what happens. Whether it's Riley Herbst blowing the brakes out, and he's the first driver out of the race, and he's the first driver that's not going to win the race, to Denny Hamlin not being able to catch Chase Briscoe there at the end, and then he loses the race, Chase Briscoe wins. That's just the way the race plays out. But you are going to have drivers that struggle. You are going to have drivers that aren't very good at a certain tracks. You're going to have drivers like Denny Hamlin that are very upfront about which tracks they don't like. Denny, talking about road courses, has been, he's been very upfront about that. But that doesn't mean that you're not that driver's fan if you're bringing up that they're not very good at a part of a certain track. I don't think that that's negative, because think about the potential that's in that story. Say a driver, I remember going to Sears Point growing up, and there were certain drivers that were terrible at Sears Point every time they came out, and you would know that. It would be like guys like Dale Jarrett and Jimmy Spencer and Sterling Marlin. And Dale Jarrett, Jimmy Spencer, and Sterling Marlin were always great at the super speedways. They'd sometimes be pretty good at like short tracks or so forth, but they were awful at Sears Point. Dale Jarrett was last in the very first Sears Point race ever run there. Sterling Marlin had a belt slip in 2001 and dropped out. I think he had like 2 or 3 last place runs there. And Jimmy Spencer just hated the road course there. He sometimes would have a road course specialist in the car there. But what's very interesting with all 3 of those drivers is at certain points, and I can remember these races specifically. In 1999, Jimmy Spencer got a top 5 at Sears Point. In 2000, Sterling Marlin was second to Jeff Gordon, actually took the lead from him on pit road. And in 2005, through some different strategy, Dale Jarrett got a top 5 at Sears Point. So all 3 of those stories, you know, the reason that those would be big in the booth is if you emphasize that, like, look, this driver's not known for being very good here. He's struggled a lot over the years and this and that. But those moments, they stand out because you know the driver isn't very good there, that you know the driver struggled. And it's a big moment when they get that good run. And it should be celebrated, and it should be recognized. And that's where you can be a fan of every driver in the field and celebrate when they do well. So I think that the important thing is, though, you got to be honest about how they perform. You have to be. You know, just looking at Brad Keselowski in his interviews today after Pocono and having that, you know, missing pit road and all that, had great speed. Got to join his teammates there in the top 5, you know, top 10. RFK Racing having a great season. But Keselowski himself, not really. And Adam, to his credit, brought up the losing streak that he has there. But I think you could emphasize it more. And I don't think it's rude to do so. I don't think it's unprofessional to do so. You could bring up that, you know, he's had these other bad runs. You bring up at Talladega when he got in the wreck with Ryan Blaney. You can bring up other races earlier this season where, you know, they just haven't had the pace. And, you know, and then, but the way you shift that is you don't ignore it. You don't bring up this nice thing and exclude this. You shift into it from there and say, look, now look at where they are. They haven't been there all day, you know. I remember at super speedways, a guy would get up there and be like, where did he come from? Like, not that, you know, Kevin Harvick doesn't own that phrase. Like, it would happen with somebody like Elliott Sadler working their way in, like, you know, the top 5 in the Wood Brothers, when he was like, you know, second in the Daytona 500 in 2002, or anything like that. I know some, when I posted this and I was responding to it and saying, like, look, you know, you should want to talk about the more difficult sides. I mean, that we're kind of defending Adam on this and saying that, well, he's not really saying that, but I really do think so. And I'm listening for it now when I'm listening to these play-by-plays, and it's like, but see how much of the story you're missing if you just want to say, like, I don't even talk about like this person being very good here at this track. It's like, oh, he has a couple good runs here in the Xfinity series. It's like, well, so what? Like, you know, we're talking about a cup race here. We're talking about how well this guy, you know, what's happening in that driver's career at this moment going into this race. That is important. And you got to be honest about it. And the greats did it, you know. And so when 1999 and 2000 and 2005, when you had Jimmy Spencer and Sterling Marlin and Dale Jarrett outperform, do better at a track where they had downright honestly sucked at, it got to be a story. And that's great. And what better way to show, you know, not just that you're a fan of every driver in the field, but that you're impartial about it. I think that's really important. Now, I don't profess that the way, you know, I look at the sport is the way that everybody should, because I know not everybody does. And that's one of the greatest things about this sport. You could be focused on one thing or another. But one thing that I've tried to maintain through my site is I try not to express any favorites, you know, in that sense through the articles. You know, if Chase Elliott finishes last in 6 consecutive races, I'm going to write 6 consecutive Chase Elliott articles, and I'm going to go into detail about it. And in that that one paragraph that I usually have right after the who, what, when, where, why at the beginning, that second paragraph is my way of contextualizing it. Now, I'm not going to say like, oh, well, he finished last, but who cares about that? Because he had a couple top 5s here. It's like, we're not, in the Xfinity series. Like, that's not going to shift away from the focus. We're going to go right back into what actually happened in the race. Because that's the thing. At some point, you could be so positive that you're losing track of what's actually happening out there. And I think maybe this is part of the reason that I'm just not a big fan of Adam Alexander's calls. I just don't agree with his approach. And it would be great to have a discussion on that and maybe learn more about it. I haven't seen the rest of this video. Maybe it comes up in there or anything like that. But it is something I'm going to be watching, quite a bit more. And I think that'll be something that'll be interesting there too. So yeah, I think it is and I think it's also, I think this positivity is another reason that I've always felt that he's a really good host, that like Chris Myers that way. Chris Myers maybe isn't the best example now, because Chris Myers this year, he looked like he was just checked out. And I think he was, I don't know what it was, but by the time we got to the All-Star race, thank God they brought Josh Sims in there to kind of carry the ball for him, because he wasn't spectacular, but he did the job, which was great. But that's another part of it there. And this is what's going on. This is why, you would think from social media, and I know social media is not real life, but it's a barometer on at least the human condition, I think you could say generously. If it's a discussion about, you would think that there's an argument. You think there's two different sides to it, saying, oh, well, I think this should be the system, and I think this should be it, and all that. But it really doesn't feel that way. I think you have a large number of people who, looks to, the way the sport used to be in some ways. Is it ever going to be exactly the way it was in the late 90s? Of course it isn't. But there's stuff you can learn from it to apply to the current day and say, okay, why don't we try this? Why don't we try more horsepower? Why don't we try a 36 race point system? Why don't we try having the season finale back at Homestead, which they did listen to? And then there's another side of it that's not even engaging in the debate, just saying, oh, you're being too negative. Oh, I'm everybody. I like everything the way it is. I think it's wonderful. I think, isn't that great? And see, if you just were like me and you were just positive and you just kind of going along with it, wouldn't that be great? And not even, it's such a fallacy, because it's not debating for it. They're not giving support to their side because they know their side sucks. They know the cars are slow. They know that the competition's not as tight as it needs to be. So all they can do is just attack the other side. And it makes it seem like we're having a debate about it, but we really aren't. And so stuff just kind of doesn't go anywhere. And it's so frustrating. And then, of course, the side that does want things changed, they get more and more frustrated because they think the other side's not listening. And that's because they aren't. And it's unfortunate. And I see examples like this. And I realize why. I realize what we're stacked up against here. So, and again, I say this, and I'm glad this came up on a race weekend like this, where, again, it would be the equivalent of me talking about this Pocono race today and saying, yeah, this is the greatest racing that we've ever had, and it's the best it's ever been, and it's just absolutely phenomenal, and if you don't like this, you shouldn't be watching it. It's like, look, I'm not saying that. But, I'm saying that, yeah, it wasn't perfect. I'm saying that these cars, yeah, it would be great if they had way more horsepower. It'd be great if we didn't have the charter system. We had more competitive fields out there, and we had even more cars out there, and we had even better, play-by-play and so forth. Yeah, that would be better. But I am saying that, what I'm seeing here, it was entertaining. I can also factor in the fact that I was entertained by what was going on there. And two things are, both those things are capable of happening at the same time. So I don't mean to sound defensive in that sense. What I am saying, though, is that this is a perfect example of where both viewpoints could kind of take different paths in that sense. And I'm so glad with Mark Martin's interview that he really showed that the people that complain a lot about the sport are the ones that care a lot about it. And it's not saying that the ones that don't really complain as much about it don't care as much about it. Maybe they do care about it, but they don't see as many of those problems. Either they were not aware of the way the sport used to be, or they don't care about the way the sport used to be. They're just kind of interested in the drivers today, or whatever the other reason is. But it needs to, it can't just be dismissed, and it can't be just painted over with a big smiley face on it, because that's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the side that wants to have some changes, and it's not going to help the side on the other side, because say something, does come up, maybe you have some other outsider that invests in the sport, and like, why the hell are you guys doing this? Like, why is this still like this? And they're like, oh, I don't know, I didn't really think it was a problem, that's kind of where I am with it. So, and I understand that. And again, that's where I kind of saw a lot of these shows in Mark Martin's discussion. But again, Mark Martin having actually lived the experience of the sport, as a driver that, has worked his way up from ASA into Cup, won at every level of the sport. Yeah, it would have been great if he won a championship or, or whatever in the Cup series. But again, his opinion holds water, and and him taking this on, he's not doing this in a sense to be some contrarian or to try to take the sport down or to ruin the enjoyment of the sport for other people. He really does feel this way. And as he said, when he did that poll, I thought the thing was very magnanimous of him saying, when he did that poll out there and said, okay, look, if I go out there and say, what do you want? Do you want the 36 race championship, or do you want the playoffs as they exist today? And if it went completely the other direction and everybody wanted the playoffs, then he would have shut up, and he would have just said, okay, well, look, clearly I'm out of touch on this, and everybody else is, and this is the direction everybody is, and everybody's happy with that. Fine. But that's not what happened. And so the debate continues. And that's kind of where we are with it there. And I'm sure there's other examples of this too, but I mean, this is something I think that everybody should be mindful of, because, and I think it's another reason that some aspects of the sport are kind of where they are, why we're dealing with problems with the car, why we're dealing with problems with broadcast, why we're dealing with some of these elements. And the offsetting issue is, I do think we are on the upward track. This did come up in the Kenny Wallace and Mark Martin one. And at the end of their discussion, they kind of went down this road of saying, like, okay, what are some things that you can agree on? It's like, okay, well, that NASCAR is the top motorsport in the United States, that it is on a positive trend, that things are kind of on the right track to getting to where they do need to be. Not saying that they are at that spot now, that they are selling a lot of seats. That we have some sellouts. We got sellout at Pocono this weekend. We have a sellout at Iowa coming up. And yeah, they could agree on it. And yeah, that was, I could agree with that as well. And that's and this is another consequence though of the smiley face effect of all this here is, yes, there are definitely positive things happening. I think we have a very interesting fan base that follows the sport now. You got people different ages and backgrounds and everything. Great. I am totally on board for, as many people getting into this sport as possible, whatever your background is. If you want to be a part of it, if you want to be a pit crew member or a driver, if you want to be in media, if you want to be, if you want to be a fabricator or working in the shops, if you want to be involved in it in any way, or if you just want to be a fan, if you want to get in the RV and travel around the country, God bless you. Because I've been happy to introduce this sport to every social group I've ever been in. And I've had varying degrees of success of bringing people in there. If there's some aspect of this that NASCAR has accomplished, either purposefully or accidentally, that has accomplished that's great. And that should be applauded. But that shouldn't mean at the same time that everything that they're doing now is the right thing, and that it can't be fixed, and that it can't be even better than it is now. And that's where I think it is the critical point there. And I think that's another point that maybe a side that's more critical versus less critical should be able to agree is on in that viewpoint there. Because yeah, again, I think that's where we can find common ground in that sense. So, again, I'm glad that the sport is doing well. I'm glad that it has, the fans that it has, and that it's going to new venues and they're trying some new things. And whether it's TV's idea or NASCAR's the idea or whatever, that was pretty eye-opening in the Mark Martin thing too, about, how much effect TV has on it. It's interesting to see that actually happening. But But again, there should be room for not everybody that criticizes the sport is doing it, in bad faith, or they're doing it because they're never going to be happy about anything or all that. And seeing a large swing towards things like the 36 race championship should reveal that at this point. And maybe we are on that path, and maybe that's why things are, kind of going that direction. So, but I thought that was interesting. And I know I'm kind of going way off mark here versus talking about the other races this weekend. But it's been interesting. It's been a very interesting week in that sense, because this topic just seems to keep coming up from this here. And I'm glad it's vindicating to me, because I do check myself a lot on this. When there's something, when I'm, it may not seem like it all the time when I'm tweeting things, but right before I hit the button, I kind of do stop for a moment and be like, is this a me problem? Is this just something I'm being really nitpicky about? Or is this something that like other people would, probably would agree with, or at least would kind of be like, am I checking in here and be like, okay, is this just me, or are you guys seeing this too? And then I'll be like, okay, let's go ahead and jump into it, and we'll just find out, after the fact there. I feel like I'm starting to understand it a little bit better. And as I do, I'm happy to share it with you guys and hear what your view is on that too, because hopefully that'll be, that same, system there at the same time. So, yeah, I think that's part of it, but, yeah, we'll find out what's going to be the story there. Anyway, I'm going, sideways here on this. On the show here, we haven't talked about at all about Xfinity or trucks yet. I'm going to get into that. We'll do some trivia here as well. I do have a show and tell segment here for the show tonight, so that'll be coming up here in a little bit. I do feel like I've talked mostly about Cup Series here, so we'll do that. I think we'll kind of move on from that and kind of get into the other races here this weekend. I'm going to step aside for just a moment here, get another drink of water, and then we'll get into that. So hang on, folks. I'll be right back. I'm going to put the loading screen up, and we'll jump into the rest of the show here in just a minute. So hang on, folks. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. So stepping back into things again here. We'll talk about the Xfinity and the Truck Series races from this weekend here. Looking back at this point, just kind of checking my notes here. At the same time, yeah. I was looking at another note here I wrote down about the Kenny Wallace, Mark Martin interview. There's another thing about, one thing I liked that Kenny brought up was about, the drivers seeming to be too vanilla and like not interesting. And maybe it was Mark that was going more into this, because he was talking about Jimmy in this context, about drivers having, a lot more personality that just doesn't get shown. Obviously, that's another thing that really needs to get loosened up. And part of it, I think we saw an example in a couple of penalties that occurred earlier this week stemming from the Mexico City thing. And so I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think a lot of this has been kind of tracked already. So we had the situation with Carson Hocevar, and we had the situation with Tab Boyd, both of these pertaining to the Mexico race, both of them pertaining to certain concerns about attending, participating in this race and whatnot. On the one side, we had Hocevar, we had statements during the live stream he was doing. And then there was just concerns going into the race about, what it was going to be like down there and having some apprehension about it. Going into that direction about it. And then he gets a fine. The team kind of stepped in on there, and I get that. Obviously everybody has their own viewpoints on things. It's not a freedom of speech situation. Obviously we've seen a situation where, when you're a driver and you're the face of it. I mean, seeing Ryan Fitzpatrick come up in the post-race show here today and talking about the drivers being the quarterback, like you're the kind of the face of the organization. You got these multi-million-dollar sponsors and all that on hand. You got to be a little bit careful. You can have your own opinions and standpoints and all that, but I mean, put it on a stream, probably not the smartest thing to do. So having them handle it, in something, privately, it would be nice if it was just done privately at the team and set up instead of being this big thing on social media like these always turn into. I hate getting into stories like this because it's all about who said what and who's in trouble and who's in the corner. I've always found them very distasteful, but I get at the end of the day, when you're representing a sponsor, it's like when you're at a job. It is a job. This is their job. You certainly, you can't kick your feet up, on the couch and just do whatever like you would do at home. There's obvious reasons for that. So I put it in that column, and I think that the way that was handled was, other than being very public about it, I think that, it being handled by the team, I don't have any particular problem with it there. The tabloid one, though, is a bit messier. Now, it's kind of, okay, so tabloid has the tweet about him getting, what was the situation? Like, that somebody boosted him or something outside the hotel, or, he lost some money or some situation like that, and he was expressing frustration over it there. Okay, when this came up, it's like, okay, it's like, first of all, it's like, oh God, I was hoping that maybe something like that wasn't going to happen. And I'm sure, regardless of your view of whatever, I don't want to make this a political discussion or anything like that. There's certain, when you travel to other parts of the world, there's other things you got to be mindful of, and, and so forth. And, things you do have to be careful of. And, he's just expressing that this thing happened to him. Now I could see NASCAR on one hand being frustrated, like, well, this is kind of the press that we don't really want. It's like we were hoping that, like maybe some, if this did happen, it was going to be a big thing or whatever. But of course on social media, there's no small things. Everything's got to be a big deal here. And then apparently the interview came out with Ricky Stenhouse that apparently Tab's no longer on that team. Now, did that punishment fit the crime? Well, there was kind of some interesting discussion about it from other writers this week that refreshingly were kind of more to the negative. It's like, well, there's kind of a line there. Is that really over it? I thought what was most interesting about it in this particular debate was, nobody questioning whether or not it even happened to begin with. And I'm not saying that it didn't. Obviously, I wasn't there. I don't have any information on it there. I'm glad the debate wasn't over that. It's like, okay, look, obviously you don't want to have somebody being in a situation where they have a negative experience anywhere. Much like when Scott Dixon got boosted outside of Taco Bell here in the United States. A situation like that, did he need to be fired over it? That's a bit of a wobbler there. I mean, yeah, he tweeted it, and he tweeted it certainly out of a point of frustration. You could tell from all that there. But this is kind of the other aspect of social media I'm not crazy about is, you post something like that and everybody's mind just kind of runs away with it. It's like, oh, he must mean this. Oh, he must mean this. This must mean that. And everybody just runs away with it. And then the response is no longer what was said, but it's what everybody thinks in their mind. It's like, okay, now we have to now it's a big thing. Now this big motion has to be done. And I don't think it was warranted. I don't think it was in this case here. We could split hairs as to, whether, he shared any blame in what happened to him. I think that's a separate discussion, but him losing his job over it, I think that's pretty, at least from the information that we have. I don't know if there's other information out there that we're not privy to, and that may well be the case. But from if it's just the tweet itself, that seems a bit extreme, out there. I mean, just think about it in terms of any other logistical aspect of getting this entire sport down there. I mean, now that we're a week removed from the Mexico City race, really, really think back to all the things that had to go exactly right just to put the race on. I think NASCAR should be applauded for pulling it off, and that the broadcast went fine, that the drivers were there, that they got to compete. A lot of media members had a great time out there, and they all got back in time to do Pocono way back up the country again, getting back over to Pennsylvania and running the race. I would say, and I said it last week, it was successful in putting the race on, but now logistically getting all that camp back up here and putting on another race a week later, I think we should consider that another success here. But undoubtedly, not everybody is going to be, everything is not always going to go right. And, things like this, where, somebody maybe encounters a difficult, situation or finds themselves in that situation, is always going to be, a risk of that. And I think that maybe this was done, maybe, and again, kind of, I'm trying not to fall into the same trap I'm describing here by making much more out of something than it really was. So I'll cut it off there and just say, yeah, I think it was a bit of an overreaction, at least from the information we have. That's all I can judge it off of, as somebody that wasn't there and wasn't involved in it there. So it's unfortunate, but again, it's I think ultimately it's really unfortunate because, again, I think that there were so many positives from the Mexico race, and this shouldn't have even, it's so strange that this got even really that much press at all, really. So I don't really want to add too much more to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and just leave it there. So regardless, yeah, exactly, Ryan Idius. Yeah, I was going to be having the same schedule with Montreal, so they didn't have to go back and forth. I mean, again, actual hats off. I was talking the other day about everybody saying hats off, but they never take their hat off. Hats off to the crew of these truck drivers and whether it's the team's truck drivers or the other logistical experts that get the pit boxes up or the TV compound, all those people that put this on, where they didn't even have an off week to work with to get everything down from Michigan or Charlotte or wherever it was and getting it done and getting it back up to Pocono. I know I said this already, but it has to be said again. Bravo. I mean, that was, even today with modern technology and logistics and all that and what can be done out there, that was tremendous. And whether that means we're getting more international races or not, I don't know. I think it's still way too early to tell. But I do think that the NASCAR and the people in there, I think that's probably another reason I take issue with the tabloid thing being made such a big deal of, is because, again, I think that without sounding like putting just a smiley face on this here, I think it was very positive what was accomplished here in NASCAR. Was it perfect? No. I think that these examples show an example of that, but I think you're going to have circumstances like that. And I think it should be thankful that it wasn't more than that, at least that we're hearing, so we'll see where things kind of go from there. Anyway, getting too sidetracked there. Let's get back to the Xfinity Series race here, and trucks, and then we'll get to the show and tell segment here in a little bit. Let's see here. So first of all, congratulations to Connor Zilisch for getting I almost said this on Twitter too. Not quite your first oval win, but a tri-oval, a triangle win there. Hey, close enough. This is always viewed as they always talk about it being kind of the road course equivalent of an oval track there with its very technical elements to it. But after that tremendous performance that Zilisch put out in the 600, it looked like he was going to drive through Justin Allgaier. Pulling off this win here, great job for him. Second place to Jesse Love. Christian Eckes has had, talking about drivers that have had awful years and really needed a turnaround, present you Exhibit A right here. Christian Eckes is like leading the last car standings. He's had mechanical failures. He's had crashes. He's had terrible luck left and right. Third place finish out there. Deserves every bit of applause there for the 46 points there. See, there's the perfect example right there for you. Great run that he had turning around there. Chase Elliott shouldn't have been in this race, finished in the 4th spot. And then Ryan Sieg had a great qualifying run for the RSS team. Started in 5th, finished in 5th, looked very fast out there, was very competitive with the leaders. Now he goes to Atlanta this next week, or the Echo Park Speedway, which has now been turned into a super speedway. I mean, they're trying everything they can to ruin this track, but it's still the home track for RSS Racing and the folks over there. I'm sure they would love to break through and win their first race there. Their super speedway cars have always been good. We'll see if things turn around there for them. But Sieg should be very strong in that race as well, and certainly has momentum on his side after that. Carson Quapple, Sam Mayer, Sammy Smith, Taylor Gray, and Justin Allgaier rounding out your top 10. Again, even quicker last place battle here in this particular race. Had Dawson Cram finally getting a start there for Mike Harmon's team. 6 DNQs and a withdrawal through the first part of this year. And the number 74 team for Mike Harmon's effort, even to the point where, again, social media doing what it does, a rumor that going into Rockingham, the team was shutting down after that withdrawal, but that was, of course, not true. In fact, the Mike Harmon Racing team has now expanded and returned to the truck series, buying one of G2G's trucks that Dawson Cram also ran on Friday. Apparently, Tim Veen's commenting that he's going to still be involved in that process and maybe making some starts there with the 74 down the line. We'll see how that turns out as well. But regardless, 74 car makes the show, finishes outside the bottom 5. Cram finishing in the 33rd spot, just 1 lap down at the finish. Kudos to them as well. But the first thing he did was climb out of last place. Justin Bonsignor ended up being your last place finisher for the second time this year. Ironically, the first time since his last Xfinity start, which was at Rockingham when we were out there, where he had not only been involved in a wreck and been towed in on the hook, but then the car then failed inspection and he ended up disqualified. So he finished a couple spots worse than he would have under the circumstances, taking the last spot from Catherine Legg in that case. Here, a very different situation with an engine failure, and Justin Bonsignor ends up your last place finisher. Thought it was kind of interesting in kind of reviewing his story there. The TW Cable LLC sponsorship was actually affiliated with Starcom Racing when Landon Castle drove for him a few years ago and sponsored, I believe, for the Pocono race as well. So good to see a returning sponsor in the sports and certainly jumping on with a top flight ride too with the Joe Gibbs Racing effort. Good to see that at the same time. Unfortunate that it only went 7 laps before the engine went sour and the car was towed into the garage area. And so the number 19 gets its 3rd last place finish, joining 2 last place runs for Brandon Jones in Xfinity races at Pocono. So that was the storyline there. Posted that earlier this morning. Chris Wright, Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, and Carson Ware completing the bottom 5. Carson Ware releasing some T-shirts here this week. So congrats to him on getting some efforts there, getting back into the field with the short field here this time around. Just 38 drivers for as many spots. And Carson finishing in the 34th spot. Still finished the race under power, 1 lap down, same deal as Cram. But again, getting some valuable track time out there and getting some good laps out there at the same time. Other drivers through the field. William Sawalich looked pretty good, but he got involved in that one incident back to the 21st spot. Dean Thompson got turned around on pit road, ended up back in 17th. Brennan Poole, 16th at the beginning of his double duty thing, which concluded earlier today. Anthony Alfredo continuing to pound on the outside of the top 10, finishing in the 13th spot. The Randy Young effort in just its 2nd full year in the Xfinity Series continues to really advance on potentially breaking up this logjam of some of the drivers that you usually see up there, your Junior Motorsports, your RSS, your RCR, your JGR, and the Jordan Anderson team. But you got that group right there with Jeb Burton for Jordan Anderson, Jeremy Clements for his team, Anthony Alfredo for Randy Young's team, and Harrison Burton for the AM Racing effort there. They're kind of right on that outside of the top 10 group, threatening to kind of get in there and pick some spots off. It's such a wonderfully varied group of Xfinity teams that are out there. I mean, yes, there's ones that have kind of got absorbed different ways. You see Alpha Prime Racing expanding. and other organizations in that sense there. But it's still so competitive, and it's refreshing to see when teams are able to kind of punch above their weight. You can really measure it pretty easily in that series too. Another example of that, Matt DiBenedetto finishing in the 19th spot, right behind the 20 there with Brandon Jones. Started 11th in the race. Great qualifying run for the Viking Motorsports team. So good effort there for them as well. But more or less kind of an open and shut deal. Sheldon Creed having a rough start to this year with the Haas Factory team. He's kind of struggling in the way I kind of expected both he and Mayer to struggle. But Mayer has really done well in the 41 car. I was wearing my 41 shirt the other day there and enjoying seeing how well Mayer did under the circumstances in a pretty physical Pocono race that we had yesterday there at the same time. But kudos to Zilich on the win. Again, winning on a non-road course. It's probably the most accurate way you can put this here in the short term till he wins on a true oval besides the three-cornered track there at the exact same time. Yep, Anthony Alfredo, Leland Honeyman doing very well with Little. Andrew, I'm seeing your comment there on that. Yeah, definitely agree. Same deal there at the same time. This gets us back over to the Truck Series race. And how many more ways? How many ways is Corey Heim going to be losing some of these truck races? Talk about a story where if you don't describe it in the negative sense, you're just not describing it. Even FS1 with Jamie Little has managed to kind of glom onto this and, make sure to mention all these races like Homestead with the electrical issue or North Wilkesboro with the late race spin. But this one here, flat right rear tire. Corey Heim leads 48 of 80 laps, but gets dropped back to the 23rd spot. Not really able to climb much further than that. So a rough deal there for him. Then you had Carson Hocevar up there. Looked like he was going to pick up the spare and pull off the win. Then he had a pit restart penalty, and then tried to argue that with NASCAR, which is not what you want to do because it's just not going to turn out that way for you, as frustrated as it gets. But regardless, Hocevar ends up back in the 13th spot, and this opens the door for good old Lane Riggs to score his first win of the season there in the number 34. In the bare knuckle brawl Ford, took it in a fight later that night to celebrate. So kudos to Lane there, the second generation driver. Father Scott Riggs there had many laps and Pocono there driving for all the many different teams, whether it was the Haas team or the Gillette Evernham deal or even further back in his career there as well. Good to see Lane pull off the win. The Front Row Motorsports team in the Truck Series still one you got to watch this year. I mean, I know that Lane Riggs looks unstoppable until he's stopped, and probably the one that you really got to watch if it's not the Spire team. The Front Row team is like right up there as well. And Lane and Chandler Smith have been very competitive this year, kind of reminiscent of other dynamic duos we've seen in the trucks, in other series in the past. I couldn't help but think of Michael Waltrip and Dale Jr. in the super speedways there for DEI. Interesting to see them still stay competitive and up there as well. Kudos to Connor Mosack. Had an issue in qualifying, ended up having to start a bit further back in the pack there in 12th. Not as good as he had hoped to run, but it certainly made up for it, finishing in the 6th spot there. I believe that was a season best for him, given the fact that that was a driver that actually missed the start back at Daytona to begin the year. Did not start off the season the way he wanted to there with the McAnally team, but really seems to be finding his footing. It wasn't just him and that Spire truck and the team having that KBM assets there that was really helping him. Him getting over to the McAnally team and being right up there, finishing with his teammate Daniel Hemrick. Great job for him there, too. And Caden Honeycutt finishing in the 3rd spot there. Kudos to him for carrying Charlie Henderson's name on there. Rest in peace to Charlie Henderson, the second longest active team owner in NASCAR, only to the Wood Brothers, the Food Country USA company, which I didn't realize he owned, but it certainly makes sense why they sponsored his rides in the number 75 for so long. I think it makes that Daytona win even more bittersweet, given the fact that it was that Kligerman was disqualified for the race and inspection. Regardless, the 75 team continuing to run as a part-time team in the Truck Series. After running in Cup, running in the Xfinity Series, drivers like Brad Teague winning out there as well. But good to see Honeycutt fly the colors there for Henderson there as well. And almost getting a good run there. Honeycutt very close to getting his first win got another good third place finish out there. He is just on the cusp of being as good as Ross Chastain was going for the championship a few years ago. And who knows where things can go. We saw him win his first ever ARCA West race. I probably mentioned it too much on the show, but I was just gobsmacked that he could get in that car out here in Roseville and win the race so easily there. So it really shows how much talent he has. And it's just a matter of time until he gets his way up there. Same thing for the runner-up in the race, Tanner Gray, with his brother in the Xfinity Series and coming very close to beating Daniel Suarez in the Mexico race last week. Tanner Gray in the Truck Series has been right up there as well in the 15. Wasn't quite able to pull it off. What was the margin of victory here? 3.6 seconds, so not really a close finish there for him. But regardless, another great top 5 run for him at the same time. So Lane Riggs over Tanner Gray, Caden Honeycutt, Brandon Jones, Daniel Hemrick, your top 5. Connor Mosack, Chandler Smith, Stuart Friesen, Ty Majeski, and Raja Karuth completing your top 10 in the Truck Series there as well. We do not have any calls in tech. Do we have, are we all clear there? We'll go ahead and check that. Let's take a peek in there too. And let's take a look. Oh my goodness, Brad Keselowski just tweeting this. I have to read this right off the bat here. Brad Keselowski tweeting this 23 minutes ago. Observation from driver intros. Most all of the drivers are still sick and dehydrated from last week. I've never seen so many sick drivers before the start of a race. Oh my goodness. See, again, and I'm glad he brought this to our attention because, that's something that has to be really addressed. I mean, the rush of going all the way down there and all the way back up, just thinking about, I can't help but bring myself into the equation here. Lastbro and I had our 3-week tour there across the country, flogging our way all the way there and back. And I felt rough just coming back from that. I can't imagine how, doing that, an even longer trip, going to a whole other country, whole other culture, having to adjust to that, and then adjust back over here, and then get back in the cars and run during a really hot day at Pocono. Didn't realize, it was so difficult. So certainly hope the drivers are able to relax a little bit before they go to Atlanta next week, and a much shorter trip for these guys here. So we heard about Ryan Blaney and him needing medical attention there after the race, but it sounds like from what Keselowski's saying, much more drivers struggling with it there. So it's good that he brings that to attention. Again, you don't want to cover that up and not talk about it. It needs to be addressed. And, hopefully it's something that is not going to be as much of an issue in Atlanta next week. So yeah, my goodness. I hate to hear that. So let me check Pockrass's page here on the inspection side of it. There it is. Yes, 4 minutes ago from Bob Pockrass's page. Post-race tech at Pocono is complete. No issues. Briscoe is the race winner. So congratulations to Chase Briscoe, who won. So again, tremendous fuel economy. Love the burn bar that the Prime broadcast used to illustrate the fuel economy run there for Briscoe. So Briscoe is your race winner. And that means that Riley Herbst will be your subject of the last car article we'll get up for you later this evening. So, again, kudos there on that. Yeah, no, Austin Foster definitely agree. Yeah, Travelers thing is, my goodness. So, a difficult situation there at the same time. So, again, kudos to the drivers as well. Not to overlook them in the equation here, too. A lot of drivers just exhausted from this here and dealing with that. So, we'll see how things are going from there. So, okay, so... oh, goodness, I got a couple super chats here to jump in here as well. I'll jump into that. We'll do some trivia here in a sec. I'm going to take another break for just a moment. Then we will do, we have a special show and tell that's going to be coming up right on the other side of this break here. And we'll do trivia. In the meantime, during the break, I want to make sure you guys get to pick which category you'd like here for the trivia deal. We did some wild card last week. So once again, we are looking at NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Once again, NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. So I'm going to step away for just a moment here, folks. Go ahead and let me know which categories you'd like, and then we'll do some questions after show and tell. So stay tuned, folks. We'll be back in just a moment. righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in here, folks. We'll get to trivia in a bit. We got our votes for which category you'd like, and I see the votes are still coming in here. So I do have something for show and tell today, and it's a very special one here. We have another unboxing for you guys today here. I know we did one a while back there with the die-cast here on the show, so I wanted to kind of have this one. I set this one aside here for today, so I definitely want to make sure we have that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this here and see what we got. Oh, I almost hit my soundboard here. I don't know if that was the applause soundboard or something else, so we'll find out. And we'll see what we got here. All right. Yep. And had to get this thing started there during my time away here, but it's taped really good here. All right. Okay. So let's bring this out. We got the bubble wrap here. All right. Oh, here we go. All right. Well, check this out, folks. What we got here is a Noah Gragson edition LED rechargeable headlamp from MillerTech. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a sponsored segment. So I want to give big thanks to the folks over at MillerTech for sending this bad boy over here today. This MillerTechEnergy.com is where you can find these here. And I was checking this out, and I was curious about this here. Check this out here too. We got a sticker. This is an air freshener. Okay, no, that's hip. Check this out. We got with a MillerTech battery on this one. Does that show up there? Oh, there we go. I wonder if this. Okay, now I got to know what this smells like. We got to find out on that. Let's find out on here. Oh, it's sandalwood. Okay, good. It's labeled. Okay, I might save that. Oh goodness, yeah. Okay, this is gonna go in the last mobile for sure. Let's bring that out here. Yes, this would be a first here, ladies and gentlemen. So let me get. Oh no, hang on. Is this? Oh gosh, what's this? Okay, hang on. Let's start. Okay, first things first. Let's bring this bad boy out here. So 1800 lumens, LED rechargeable headlamp. So interesting deal with MillerTech. Keep in mind, they actually sponsored the Truck Series race at Pocono this weekend. They had their billboards up over at the racetrack this past weekend. So kudos to them for sponsoring the sport here as well as Noah himself in the number 4 car. Where did he actually finish this one? I saw him just avoid one of the wrecks in the race earlier today. But he ran the MillerTech scheme here on that, and he finished in the 23rd spot. So there you go, on the lead lap. So hey, not too bad, not too bad. So let's take this and let's check this out. So I'll tell you what. So I'm glad, I'm stoked that they sent a headlamp here, because I'll tell you, over here at Last Car headquarters, it's very dark out, and I got to take the trash out tonight. And now I know what I need to check this with. Okay, how do I open this? How do I check that out? Okay, there we go. All right. Let's see here. So it says here 1800 lumens, max runtime high, 2.5 hours on high, smooth dimming between 5 and 100%, smart mode memory, built-in fuel gauge, military grade aluminum, sleek, slim, lightweight, high capacity MillerTech lithium ion battery. Includes one high capacity MillerTech lithium battery, one USB charge cable, one high power headlamp, and one car charger as well. Here's the other box we got right here. Should I bring the camera closer here? Okay, make sure we got, so you can see the deal here. We got a seal on this. Let's go open this bad boy and see what we got here. Alrighty. Good. Oh, look at that. Let's take a look at that there. Very nice presentation, I gotta say. Alrighty. It's got Noah Gregson's. Look at it. They got it with Gregson's autograph on it, too. Okay, now that. Gregson's always been very outspoken with his marketing. I remember that even from when his West Series efforts there over at Sears Point. So this doesn't surprise me that he was able to get something on there. This is the kind of brand activation that we used to have with other products here, too. So that's good to see. When daylight ends before your chores do. See, they anticipated this too. I gotta take out the trash. Okay, let's take a look here. Alrighty. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Please remove the lens on that. I like the strap on it. Okay, so you got the autograph on one end. You got the Miller Tech logo there on the top. I feel like I'm on Tool Time on Home Improvement. But yeah, here we go. We got a soft spot. I was wondering about this. You got like a little soft spot here on this, so it won't be too uncomfortable to wear on there as well. It's got a very, very strong light switch on this. How does this turn on? Is it just button activated? I don't want to blind everybody on the show here, so we're not going to do that. But let's make sure, because I know this is a very potent light switch. Does it work on here? Hang on. It's it's got a dimmer. I know it's set on that. So maybe that's what I'm doing. Let me shine it this way. Oh, no. Let's see. Probably would help if I read the directions on this. All right, let's see. In the meantime, what else we got here? So we got the USB charger here. We got the cable. We got another bracket here. Looks like you got some extra head support on it there. And we got the USB-C cable here from that. Oh, that's handy. Okay. Adaptive fast charging on that. Let me make sure I'm doing this properly here. LED rechargeable headlamp. Let's find out. All right. USB-C charging. Red on during charging. Green on for fully charged. Okay, does this charge? Well, hey, no time like the present. Let's go ahead and check this, make sure it charges on the old laptop here as well. And we'll get this all set up here. Put it on? Oh, yeah. Oh, we're going to put it on. Oh, we're doing it. We're doing the whole thing here, man. We're not doing this halfway. I do want to thank Miller Tech. This is a first for myself here at Lascar. We've had a couple inquiries, but this one was very intriguing to me. I was very pleased to learn more about the company. Again, MillerTechEnergy.com. The batteries that they produce are designed and tested here in the United States, which includes the battery on this. So I'm glad that they support local business out here. We certainly go through a portion of this. And for those of you waiting as well, there is a code, LASCAR10. If you pick up anything, again, at MillerTechEnergy.com, use the code LASCAR10 on there. You get 10% off your purchase. That includes not only the products they have here, like headlamps like this, or their batteries. They have car batteries there as well. They also have some really neat merch that they made for Noah Gragson on there. I didn't see this air freshener on there, so that's pretty hip. But they did have shirts and hats, both from the number 4 car from this year and from the number 10 from last year. I forgot that they actually sponsored him for Stewart Haas Racing last season. So this is not a new sponsor in the sport. So that's pretty neat to see. So there you go. So again, let me check. I'm going to check to make sure this thing is charged all the way here. And we will find out on that. Got to put it on. Should I do hat on or hat off with this? I'd probably take my hat off on that. How big is the strap? Let's try with this. I'm like a 7 5/8 with a hat. So this is a large, extra large on my hat. But I think this looks like it's probably set already pretty good. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh, I'm ready. There we go. Actually, I should do this with the hat. That would be good. Let's try that. Then I could do both. Oh, here we go. All right. Whoop. Wax on, wax off. Can I get the light? Let's see. I probably haven't charged it. That's probably why it's not on there at the moment. Now, where is the charging port? Gasp in amazement as I look for the charging port. Oh, there it is. It's on the top. Okay. And did I turn it away? Bear with me, folks. We'll get into trivia here in just a little bit. We got to make sure. Whoop. Okay. Looks like it's really obvious on the picture. Does it USB-C? Oh, is this? Oh, this pull out? Red on during charging. Green on when it's fully charged. Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look-see here. That looks like that twists off. Let's try that. Okay. All right, there we go. Where's the port? It'd be great, yeah, if you have the port maybe protected by the sleeve here. That's kind of what it looks like. Ah, there it is. There we go. Okay, very clever. Okay, so that way, I'm sure it's a weatherproofing thing there, so you don't have to do that. So there you go. Plug the old USB-C in there. And whoop, luckily I have my port over here. And we can plug it into that. And then we can always charge it. If it needs to be charged here, folks, we'll have it charged in the background during trivia, and we'll check it out afterwards there. And we will do that. So very fun. All right. Okay. Well, it's blinking green, so it looks like it should be good to go. This is blinking green, and it's a green light flashes 3 times, full power, high level. Okay, no, should be good. Okay, hang on. Battery installation method. Nope, charging is fine. Overheat protection. Leave it to me to overcomplicate something where it has one button that turns it on, but I think I've done that. It looks like it's fully charged, so let's see. Hang on. We are going to find out very soon. Regardless, it's very comfortable. I mean, I don't need to wear it with a hat. It's very comfortable with this too. So I could just pop that bad boy on there and do that. Okay, probably got to screw that back down. Let's screw that down. Maybe that just needs to be tightened a little bit. I think it's got to be the dimmer on the other side. I can imagine doing this kind of like that. Trying on that. Now, it wouldn't surprise me if I'm hitting the wrong button or something and something like that. But regardless, so again, we will get that. Alrighty. I'm waiting for it to blind us to the camera. No, it's not going to do that. I am hitting the button. I'm hitting the button. Oh gosh, this reminded me of Ren and Stimpy, where you have like the "Are you receiving me?" Okay, no, there we go. Huh. Okay. I don't know what's going on. It is fully charged, and I don't know why it's not turning on here, folks. So this is live TV, as we talked about earlier. Sometimes that is always a possibility. It's very nice that they sent this here, and I'm sure I'm probably misusing it here in some sense. Maybe I have to hold the button a lot longer and it turns on. But yeah, it's got a nice little click to it when it clicks. But man, oh man, it is not activating. It is not active. Okay. All right. Well, all right. Well, let's go ahead and go, we'll go iPhone introduction mode here on this. But I am going to bring it on here because it should be very comfortable. So regardless, let's bring in the box here. I know you can bring this back out. There's something else in the box here too I need to check out. So we'll do that right quick. Apologies here for this. Again, inexperience on my end, I think is what we could chalk this up to. Have not done one of these sponsor segments before, but I am very happy that MillerTech's being involved in NASCAR and sponsoring not only a race, but a driver in the field. Especially one as outspoken as Gregson has been. They sent this very nice box here. And I see something in the bottom here. It says, "Do not bend." So I need to find out what that is. Let's jump right into that. Let's do that, folks. And see what we got in the white envelope. Let's find out, folks. All right. I keep wanting to say Binford Tools, but no, that's not it. MillerTech. MillerTechEnergy.com. The code is LASCAR10 to get 10% off your purchase. And once this bad boy charges, I'm sure it will work fantastic. Oh, what is this? Oh, we got a card? Okay, there we go. Right on. Noah Gregson's hero card right here with the Miller Tech paint scheme on that. So there you go. Well, how about that? So there you go. Noah Gregson, born in July of 1998. Man, I remember July of 98. I am not, goodness, in a different situation there. Miller Tech, a premium lithium battery company, combines superior quality products with faith-based business values to deliver unique and beneficial experience for end users. So there you go. Kudos there to them for sending that as well. Big thanks on that. And again, thank you to them for sponsoring this. So we will jump into our trivia section here. And yes, I am going to wear the lantern for the rest of the show. I think I need to send positive vibes here to this, and I think that will be enough. And by the end of the show here, we'll have light here. So we will see. All righty. So yeah, hopefully it wasn't damaged in shipping. Yeah, the box came through fine. I'm sure, if there is any issue, I am sure Miller Tech has fantastic customer service, and we will figure this out. It would figure that the first cross promotion for lastcard.info would have some kind of reason to go behind the wall. The humor of that is not lost on me. And I'll tell you what, there you go. Bowser Jr., I feel like I watched a 70-year-old try to use the Apple II. I don't blame you. So I do apologize, and I particularly apologize to Miller Tech, because I can't overstate this. They were very nice in reaching out, and especially for somebody that hasn't done one of these before. And again, I do intend to use this when we go out and bring the trash out, because it does get, if it's not dark yet out here, it's going to be dark very soon. So I really am hoping I can get it to work, because yeah, that's going to be it. This is straight out of Home Improvement. Oh my goodness. Alrighty. Yes, I'm glad you like the shirt. Thank you. Yeah, no, very happy with it there as well. I'll tell you what, like they had this shirt, I think it was at Daytona. They had Carson Hocevar doing an autograph session, and they were doing an autograph session, and they just had a picture of this shirt in the background. I was like, oh, I need that. And I couldn't believe it. Like they had it on like the Legacy Motor Club's website, but for whatever reason, they weren't filling orders for like 3 months or something. I don't know what the holdup was. But they had a situation there where they weren't able to get it out very quickly. But I did order one before Talladega, and it did come back too. Sorry. The humor of all this is grabbing me here. So we got one of these shirts here. It came in a little bit later during our Talladega trip, but yeah, very happy with it too. Love the bright green on it. I'm colorblind, so seeing that color is probably pretty good to see here at the same time. So there you go. So it's a pretty good design here on that. So yeah. Alrighty. Which category had the top category on this? Did we see anything on that? We laugh. We have fun here. We have fun on this show. Yes, we do. Absolutely. This is a last car first here, as absolutely. I think it's a first in a number of respects here. I just hope it's not the last. So well, again, kudos to Miller Tech. Very nice things that they said over here. And I'm sure once I figure this out, this bad boy is going to, you can see this thing from space, I'm sure. It's very comfortable. Actually, I kind of forgot I had it on. I'm going to kind of probably have that at the same time here. So again, we will jump in to this. Okay, so let's do some trivia. Is it wild card is the winner? Okay, it looks like it was wild card. Okay, we can get wild here. We can get wild. Yeah, I didn't even have to adjust this. I thought I was gonna have to adjust this. And I was gonna be like, I thought that was gonna be the hang up. It's like, I'm gonna have to adjust this, but no, it's actually, it must be a one size fits all, which is fantastic. Like, yeah, again, this is a large / extra large hat, and they didn't ask for a hat size or anything. So I'm glad that it was worked out, that it was something very flexible in that sense. They do have great Gregson merch. Again, full stop. I love whenever somebody has like great merch, I try to retweet it on my page here. So big thanks to them as well on that. Alrighty, let's do some wild card questions here. Okay. So let's see. Whoop, hang on. Alrighty. Oh, here we go. First question. We're going to talk about scoring errors here, folks. That'll be the lead off here. Whose daughter made a scoring error in a race Richard Petty won after 503.44 miles? So let me read that. It's a little complicated here. Whose daughter made a scoring error in a race Richard Petty won after 503.44 miles? So whose daughter? Not the name of the daughter, but whose daughter did not score a race properly that Richard Petty won after 503.44 miles? All righty. I guess it's for Bill France and David Pearson, and there we go. Yes, thank you. Don't forget Super Chats. Yes, absolutely. I do not want to forget those. I was hoping I'd hit this and it'd be like the idea light bulb, but let's see. I want to check. Okay. I got it. I'm thinking I maybe did I turn the dim all the way? It does have a really wide dim range. Maybe it's dimmed all the way down, and that's why I can't see it. That's probably it. That sounds like something I'd do. That does sound like something I'd do. Nope, I don't. Oh, okay. All right. There's the rechargeable battery. Check this out. There we go. MillerTech lithium ion extra high capacity. I found the battery. So there's that. So that's good. It's got a battery in there. Is the battery in backwards? Maybe that's it. That'll probably do it. Let's try that. Watch. This is like a Clark Griswold and the lights there. Oh, I didn't just drop that, did I? Let's figure that out. And we will do just that. Whose daughter made a scoring error in a race Richard Petty won after 503.44 miles? I'm going to try it. I bet this battery is maybe in backwards. Maybe that happened. Is that it? That would be amazing. Let's find out. We're going to figure this out, folks. I do a lot of like IT stuff at my job, my day job, so this is not a foreign concept to me. Oh, yep. And it had this little plastic bit. I bet that plastic bit was on the contacts. That must have been it. Maybe there's one on this side. Oh, God. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Oh, dear. Let's figure that out. All right. Is there one on this side? There's got to be one on that side. That's probably it. It's probably got that little plastic thing. It's usually that's sticking out when you buy an electronic, but it's perhaps not the case here. Okay, so maybe it was in the right direction, and it was just a matter of that. Let's try that. Although, I mean, again, if it was the contact points, it wouldn't light up when I charged it, I would think. Did I put that in backwards? We're going to figure this out. We're going to figure this out, folks. You guys get what you pay for here on this show. You never know what you're going to get on this. Okay, I think it was in that way. Yeah, I think it was that way. You got to have a sense of humor about yourself. Like, you really do. Like, I mean, I really do apologize to MillerTech. They wanted an unboxing. Otherwise, I would have tested this earlier. I hope they're not upset because that's not my intent here. Oh my God. Yes. 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 Do I have a hallelujah button on this board? Where is it? Oh gosh, I have to have that. Oh my God. It's a Christmas miracle. Watch. This is going to be, where is it? Which one is it? Okay, it's got to be one of these. No, that's not it. Okay, well, that one's appropriate. Where is it? No, not that. Okay. Now where was that one earlier? Okay. This is a great soundboard. I don't think I have Hallelujah. No, not that. The moment's gone. No, I don't have it on there. Look at that. Look at that, folks. We have light. We have light. Yes. Okay. Miller Tech, I hope you're still watching. Okay, that's good. Look at that. That's going to be, I don't need my light over here on this end here. We're going to be, there you go. All right. We are good. We are good. Yes, we have light and it is good. Oh my goodness. That is wonderful. All right. Cool. So the trash will go up the hill tonight. Let me tell you that. A Christmas miracle in June. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All righty. Well, that's going to be a fun email to write. Okay. Yes. So yeah, one click, bam, right up there. And then where's the dimmer? The dimmer go down. I'm not going to push my luck. Probably. I'm not going to push my luck. Okay. I will push this button and one click and there you go. All right. Let's do it. Excellent. Excellent. All righty. So it's like I got an idea. There we go. This might become a recurring fixture on the show. You never know. So we'll find out. Whose daughter made a scoring error in a race? Richard Petty won after 503.44 miles. The answer is indeed Richard Petty's. Brock Griswold. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let there be light. Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Oh. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, I see the thing on the NBA Finals there. Indication which battery is go, yeah. Yeah, I think this plastic thing was probably what was holding it in there. It must have been, yeah, they got to do that for sending it coast to coast and all that, so it's on that. But, yeah, I didn't get that in my instructions. Otherwise, I absolutely would have made sure to do that. Let's see. So, yes, indeed, Richard Petty's daughter had the scoring error. I wonder which race. I mean, it was 503.44 miles, maybe like a Darlington, maybe. Like you had a couple of, or maybe Rockingham, a race that's like a little over a mile in length or a mile and a half in length. Maybe it was, might have been Atlanta, maybe. Yeah, ready. Yes, I need to do super chat still, so there we go. Haven't forgot that. We're going to make sure to do that, folks. All righty. Here we go. Here's a fun one. What driver was levitated by a magician before the 1998 Las Vegas 400? What driver was levitated by a magician before the 1998 Las Vegas 400? That is the question. Willie B., you're asking why I'm wearing this? Uh-oh. Do I have to tell them, folks? I think I got to tell them. How about this? Let's have this be the fresh start, folks. This right here is you mean my Miller Tech Front Row Motorsports Edition headlamp, 1800 lumens, rechargeable, with a picture of Noah Gragson holding a Marine Deep Cycle batteries here on the shot. Item number 555. Yes, indeed. And yes, it does work. Absolutely. There you go. Oh, wow. It works even more than before. Okay, good. I'm glad it turns off. It gets even brighter than I think it does here. Well, there you go. Yes, this big thanks to Miller Tech, the sponsor of this video today, of our live stream here. MillerTechEnergy.com. Is there a user code? Yes, indeed there is. LastCar10. You will get 10% off your purchase, whether you would like one of these bad boys or any of their merch. They do have merch of both the 4-car and the 10-car that he ran last year for Stuart Haas Racing there. So they've actually been sponsoring him for a couple of years, and you will find that over at the site. As far as I know, the code works for everything on the site there. So definitely be sure to check that out. LastCar10. Get 10% off your purchase at MillerTechEnergy.com. Check out this little air freshener we got here as well with the number 4 on it there. Yeah, kind of a neat deal on this. You got Noah Gregson's signature on the back of this bad boy here. And yeah, it works. So that is why I'm wearing it. This is going to be like George Bush in the rainbow wig in that Simpsons episode. Keeping in mind, I already explained the headlamp. I don't know if MillerTech knew what they were getting in on this one here, but I do apologize. But it does work. I don't want to make it seem like it didn't work here because I did have to get a little plastic tab off the battery, and then that bad boy fired up like the fire of 1,000 suns. So we are set. Alrighty. Last Car on Brock, sponsored by MillerTech. Yes, indeed. The MillerTech Hour. It's Miller time, folks. All right. I would love to keep doing this. I hope MillerTech sticks with this because I would love to do, it wouldn't be every show and tell segment or anything like that, but we'll do another one and we'll have fun with it. And hey, we'll find a way to make it work. But that's what we got on here today. We have a lot of mines out here too. Did I mention that? That's yeah. Actually, that kind of reminds me of this here at the same time. What driver did I say the question already? I don't think I did. Okay, here we go. What driver was levitated by a magician before the 1998 Las Vegas 400? Got a David Copperfield deal here. What driver was levitated by a magician before the 1998 Las Vegas 400? Let's see. Hamlin got the most bonus points with 20. 5 for winning the pole, 5 for leading a lap, 5 for winning stage 1. Oh, it must be in your own championship deal there. I did say the question. Okay, good. A post-stream interview and plug the sponsor constantly. Yes, that's pretty much it. See, it's because of you folks. See, you made the show too successful. Now we gotta work with the sponsors on here, and happy to do so. So there you go. Still checking out these bad boys. Have more details in the description, by the way, if you need the link to, again, MillerTechEnergy.com. .com. Who wouldn't want one of these? There you go. Boop. Uh-oh. There we go. Now I can read the question on here. Actually, this might end up being a recurring thing, because I can actually read this on the screen way easier. There we go. Boom. Alrighty. What driver was levitated by a magician before the 1998 Las Vegas 400? The answer is Ernie Irvan is the answer. Ernie Irvan is the question. Yeah, I want to say it was Ward Burton. Yeah, Mark Martin, Rick Mast. Good guess, Wayne Stell. You got it. There you go. Ernie Irvan is indeed the correct answer. Alrighty. Yeah. Might go well with your MillerTech, some Raycon earbuds. I actually have Raycon earbuds. That not a sponsor. We're not sponsored by Raycon though, but I do have those. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I kind of liked how this looked with the hat. I'm gonna bring that back up. It looks like a miner helmet with a hat, so I think that's pretty hip. See, I got the logo. I got the MillerTech label around the side. This is be good. This will be good. This might be my fit for Sears Point. We'll bring out this light here, and then, yeah, anywhere I need to go there, that'll be the deal. Yeah, Ernie Irvan is kind of an interesting choice for the that demonstration, isn't it? All right. Nobody has as much fun on one of these shows. My goodness. Tell you what. Everybody else is missing out on this episode. I'll tell you what. Don't make me talk about another product, Death Killer, while I'm promoting another product. They're pretty good. They're not as good as this MillerTech headlamp, but Raycons are quite good. So yeah, I've had some good success with those. Okay, I'm gonna have to talk about it anyway. All right. I didn't do the internet comment etiquette thing or I guess the internet historian, I guess, does that with the ad time segment. I don't know, but alrighty. Here we go. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, what's this? All right, here we go. We got a school question here, folks. School question. Hat with the light is the way to go. Big G, agree. Yeah, it's actually more comfortable too. I think it kind of it's. I'm sure if I loosened it a little bit, it'd be even better without it. But yeah, I kind of like the way it goes with this. It's pretty hip. It's pretty hip. This might be, I'll tell you what. Like legitimately, like last year we went over to the KOA and we stayed there for Sears Point. Like this is gonna actually be in my pack there for that weekend because we had to buy like a little lantern because like I forgot how dark the campground got. Oh my gosh, this will take care of that easily. Just bust that thing out and we're good. Look at that. Oh my goodness. It's so bright I can see the point. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. Yeah, Internet Historian is a plagiarist. That is unfortunate. I don't know why he plagiarized Man in Cave. That was bad. But yeah, maybe it's good we don't copy that then. There you go. What was the first Ivy League school graced by a Jeff Gordon, Ray Evernham lecture? I think we've had this one before, but it might have been way back years ago. So we'll see. Show it to Noah. I'll get a kick out of it. Yeah. No, I think this is going to be, I'll have to do some kind of picture there for the show here tonight. Yeah. No Death Killer. I'm with you on that. What was the first Ivy League school graced by a Jeff Gordon, Ray Evernham lecture? It still feels like the sound is off on this thing. I don't know why that is. Nope, okay, it's plugged in the right port. I plugged it into the left-hand port, I think 2 shows ago, and I knew that didn't sound right. So that wasn't good. But I think this time we will be good. Alrighty. Okay. Virginia Tech and Duke are not Ivies. What does qualify for an Ivy League school? Like, I mean, I'm West Coast, so I don't understand any of that stuff. That stuff's foreign to me. I assume it's just whatever Richard Nixon didn't like. Like, what was the first Ivy League school graced by a Jeff Gordon, Ray Evernham lecture? I guess Cornell, Columbia, Yale, Princeton. Yeah, we're going through internet questions. All right, and the answer is Princeton. Princeton, one of you guys got that. Somebody guessed Princeton. Yeah, Death Killer, you got it. Wayne Stell, you got it as well. Oh, he's from New Jersey and it's in New Jersey. Okay, that makes sense. There you go. Oh no, Redditors found more. Oh, that's too bad. The Acosta Concordia video was quite good. Oh, that's too bad. It's really unfortunate. I mean, doing the videos online, like, I mean, it does take a ton of work. And I've, in between working on my own videos, I do wonder, how some of these channels just produce stuff really quick. And I know that part of that is AI, which has got its own problems. I don't support that beyond the use of a transcription software I use that helps save time with that. And even then, I double check listening, all the transcription to make sure it's correct. So it only saves so much time in that sense. But yeah, I mean, other people that produce these videos really quick, and it's unfortunate to hear that, that some have to resort to that. Because, I mean, again, the process of putting these together is really enjoyable. I have a video that I'm working on that I started working on at the beginning of this month. That, I mean, it's fun to put it together and try to get the script just right and try to, find new information that could be added to it and stuff. And that's part of the joy. I don't get the point of just kind of shortcutting all that. And I know that it's about the bottom line and they're trying to, just maximize the algorithm and stuff. And, heck, I've not figured that out yet, on, figuring out what the algorithm likes or doesn't like. They don't seem to like NASCAR history too much, but, again, maybe that changes. Maybe that does down the line. So we'll see. But, it's disappointing. And especially when, on the surface, it seems like a video is really good and then it turns out it's in that category. So, That's too bad. But that is something, you know, um, something to watch for. I mean, it's it's the same thing it was growing up when people were plagiarizing essays or whatever else in between. Let's see. Oh, you got your chem degree at Yale, Bowser. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Play the goal horn. Do we have a goal horn on this? I don't know. Oh, you finally got one. Right on. There you go. All righty. Let's see. Next question here. We'll just do a couple more here to wrap up. I need to do the super chats here too, so I want to jump into that here next. What Hall of Fame driver was native to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin? Might have had that one before, but we'll read it again. What Hall of Fame driver was native to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin? Alrighty. Let me get back here. Gabriel, thank you for your subscription. I see that on the message here as well. Let's see. First of all, Beast of Metal 1989, thank you for your super chat for $10. Alexander's positivity bias is an absolute detriment to fair and honest reporting. I think he gets such latitude and so many jobs because this is exactly what NASCAR wants from every commentator. If the people in the booth are unwilling to criticize random pay driver C, then they're definitely not going to call the sanctioning body on anything and are indeed going to be cheerlead at their decision, all their decisions, no matter how detrimental the impacts. Again, your words, not mine. Thank you so much for the super chat there, Beast of Metal. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to understand what the process is about how much of an effect NASCAR has on choosing their broadcasters, especially with the revelation in what came up in the Mark Martin, Kenny Wallace deal, where TV seems to have a large influence on NASCAR. It may well be that they got a section of different announcers they work through and they realize which one's going to be, helpful, maybe which one's going to be less so or perceived to be such. That certainly could be the case. It could be, and again, I think you raised some good points there on that. And I'm definitely with you about, kind of the positivity bias. I think there is a problem with that. And I've already gone kind of chapter and verse into that. But I'm with you on that. Yeah. I think again, it's unfortunate because he does. It's not that I don't want to make it sound like he's not appropriate to NASCAR because he does seem to have a genuine interest in the sport. I think he knows who these drivers are. He seeks them out. He actually wants to know more about them. It would be great to get to a time again where you have like announcers that, know the names of the drivers' kids and where they go to school and, little things like that. I mean, back in, a different time, it seemed like the announcers were kind of part of the same group with the drivers and they all knew each other and knew, their families knew each other and stuff. But, is that reasonable to expect of people? I mean, no, I wouldn't put that expectation on myself there. But I agree. I think Beast of Metal, I think there's a lot to look at. And this is an ongoing thing that, I'm sure I'm going to bring up more in future shows here too. What is the decision making and, choosing this broadcaster versus another? I do think it was pretty eye opening that when you had Amazon come in and Prime come in here and, do so many things that were new in terms of graphics and their post race show and getting Carl Edwards and Corey LaJoy in there and doing so many new things, why they were still so inflexible on the booth. I don't get why that's where the line is that they don't want to be more advantageous with. And maybe part of it is that process. Maybe NASCAR's role in it or how they're going to be perceived to be critical of NASCAR or something. There's definitely plenty of media members that are critical of NASCAR, and yet they are afforded plenty of attention in the sport. So I don't think it's maybe the sanctioning body as much. I feel like that's more of a TV thing. But again, it's worth bringing up, and I appreciate you bringing it up because I think that there may be more to it than that. So somebody just undering it mentioning Wally Dallenbach or Kyle Petty. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Dallenbach in particular was very outspoken. Whenever somebody did something stupid, like Wally would say, like, what the heck is that guy thinking? Like, I love that stuff. Wally is great, and it was always entertaining to see him in the booth there as well. And had a good sense of humor about himself, too. Let's see. There was another one. I think there's another one here. I didn't want to miss that. Bowser Jr. XD, thank you for your super chat for $5 here as well. All three major U.S. races today came down to fuel mileage, though, of course, in IndyCar, this meant Dixon pitted with 2 to go and Palou won. Yeah, there you go. Very good point there, Bowser Jr. Again, thank you for the super chat on that. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah, I didn't know all three races in the U.S. here today did there. I saw the one about Santino Ferrucci drinking the beer from the fan that threw it over the fence there, so that was pretty fun. But Road America is a beautiful track, and maybe one of these days NASCAR will get back out there too. Was it Formula One? I did get your stats here on the last place stats here, so I do appreciate you sending those at the same time. I'm checking that on my phone here in the meantime here. Doot. There it is. Yeah, so we had the Formula E race. The Formula E came down to, I guess it would be battery mileage, kind of like my Miller Tech headlight back here. Boop. There it is. There we go. I get a bright idea here. Formula E in Jakarta. Maximilian Gunther ran in the wall by the points leader on lap 8. Has most DNFs of the season with 4. At Road America, Robert Schwartzman, the Indy pole sitter, spun out on lap 3, the first last place finish of his career. And MotoGP in Mugello, Enea Bastianini, I'm sorry, I'm butchering this. Enea Bastianini crashed out early. First retirement in almost a year. Only the second DNF since the start of 2024. So a rough deal there. So yeah, not here in the U.S., but overseas there as well. But again, thank you, Bowser Jr. XD, for your information on margins of victory and last place finishers in other series there. Definitely appreciate the information you provide each week as well. Let's see. I got you. And I got Beast Metal. I think I'm caught up on that. Okay, good. I don't want to miss anybody, especially if you guys get on there. Forgot about the IMSA race. Was the IMSA race the one that had the fuel mileage? Where were they? Were they in Road America? I didn't see that on Bowser Jr.'s list. Or is that still going? Oh, goodness. Maybe it was going from earlier. This is from this morning. Yeah. Alrighty. Okay, here. Oh, the saline at the Glen. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, Watkins Glen. Goodness. Yeah, I haven't followed that here today, but should be a good deal there. Love Watkins Glen. I'd love to cover a race out there again one of these days. Yeah, I haven't really followed the endurance races either Bowser Jr. I usually watch I watch Daytona. I always enjoy the 24 hours, but yeah, I didn't follow Le Mans this year. Now I have to show Raycons for forgetting IMSA. Yeah, there we go. We'll have a tie-in there on that. Let's see here. What Hall of Fame driver was native to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin? Did we get guesses? Dick Trickle, Fireball Roberts. Got to scroll up here for that. I think Trickle's from Rudolph, Wisconsin. Kawicki. Oh, I'm seeing questions about 500 days. Yes, that's still in the works. I have a video that came up that's kind of come together pretty quickly, and I'm hoping to get that done early July if I can, and then work on 500 days and field fillers or follow that afterwards. So I don't have a release date announcement on that yet, but that's something that'll be, it's definitely in the pipeline. I still need to complete the script for 500 days. That one's going to be kind of a longer one. That's why it's taking a bit longer, but we'll get there. We had a few things come up there with the starting grid videos, the Cartoon Network contest, had just other stuff that jumped through there. So we're catching up. We'll catch up, though. One more time, what Hall of Fame driver was native to Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin? The answer is Marvin Panch. I thought he was from California. Marvin Panch? That doesn't seem right. F1 runs next week at the Red Bull Ring. Okay. All right, let's see. The endurance race, last place finishes. Appreciate it. Yeah, I want to make it as good as it possibly could be. This next video is going to be really good, too. I'm very excited about it. It's the kind of video that, if you're in the Patreon, you already know what video it is. Well, actually, since the Patreon already knows what it is, I'll go ahead and tell you. My next video that I'm working on here, you guys have sat through my ad break here. The least I could do is tell you what my videos I'm working on. Next video I'm working on is a standalone video on the career of Kenny Irwin Jr. in anticipation of the 25th anniversary of his death, which comes up on July 7th. It may come out either that day or early August, which will be what would have been his birthday in early August. It's kind of trending towards August. We'll see. But it's been coming together quite well. So it's going to chronicle his career, not just what was in 3 before February, but also chronicle the truck series, Xfinity, as well as ARCA. I'm going to try to touch more on his USAC career, of course, which is so key in his career. I did talk about him in 3 before February and kind of gave an overview of his career, focused much more on the 2000 season and, of course, everything that was going on there. But it was very much an overview. And Kenny is a figure that I've always been curious about, and I think I was probably more of a fan of growing up than I realized. Certainly I followed Jerry Nadeau at the same time. But Kenny's career was kind of very much in that same era, going for Rookie of the Year in 1998 and the difficulties he encountered around that same time. So that's the next video I'm working on right now. And Brian Hallman has provided some tremendous pictures for it there that I think are going to be really good. From his archives. Again, I picked music for it as well. And I had an interview with a big fan of his named Eric, who I had spoken with. He was actually somebody I spoke with before 3 before February, and we've been trying to set up an interview for a while. He's had a lot going on in his life, and I've been dealing with a lot of stuff here on this end too. We finally were able to make that work, so that's going to be part of the video there too. It was going to be on a kind of a shorter video, but it's evolved kind of into something longer. So that's going to really depend on when it's going to be finished. But that is something I'm working on here on that. And so, yeah, I wanted to kind of do a deeper dive into his career. And it was a really interesting story as I put it together here this past week. I think it'll be something that as something a little bit more current there, can kind of tie into other aspects of kind of NASCAR history and where it fits into it there. I've always found it kind of interesting. So that's another video that is going to be coming up here very soon. I'd like to get at least like a trailer together or something there, but I don't know how long it's going to be. That's going to be the big thing here. The script right now is about 20 pages. There's a couple other things I need to add into it from the interview. And I hope it'll do the subject justice for sure. So that's something I'm working on here in the meantime. Oh, yeah, residence is different from where you were born. That makes sense. Listed from Oakland. Oh, my goodness, Wayne. Yeah, there you go. Eating good on this channel. Yes, you are, Big G. Oh, yeah. We're getting more stuff coming up here. Yeah, and I wouldn't delay 500 days or field fillers unless it was something pretty big here. So, yeah, I started kind of piecing stuff together. I'd already kind of collected some pictures and some articles and stuff. And then I was like, you know what? This should really be a video. And I think that's going to be something big there. So we're pretty far along in it. I think the production time might push it back past July 7th. And if that happens, it'll probably be in August. But certainly by then, we'll have something pretty good there for that. The worst thing, I really don't want to make it, I don't want to rush it too much. But I'm pretty happy with the script so far. But it does need another revision before I'm ready to record it. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. If you're interested in more updates on that, patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. You'll provide some more information on that there as well. We'll do one more wild card question. I'll wrap up here. It's already been, oh gosh, it's been 2.5 hours. Oh my goodness. It's been quite the odyssey for you guys. I appreciate so much you guys tuning in here. And I know it's been quite the odyssey. Let's wrap it up here with this. Let me see this on the light. There we go. Okay. What hometown boy has major fan support in Norwalk, Connecticut? What hometown boy has major fan support in Norwalk, Connecticut? Don't look it up. Try to guess it. Norwalk, Connecticut. What driver has a lot of support in that area? Is the question. Alrighty. Yeah, August 5th was Kenny's birthday. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that will probably more likely be the release. I think we'll probably have it recorded by July 7th, but it probably won't be done until August. It'll probably be done like early to mid July. But Sears Point will tangle that up too, so that'll be it. But yeah, just stay tuned on that. It'll be out soon when it's done and it's ready. And of course, those of you in the Patreon, if you're in the $5 and up levels, you get advanced access to the video once it's done. So you'll have that as well. So yeah, we got big things coming up here very soon. All right, guesses for LaJoy, Nadu, LW Wright. Yeah, Norwalk, Connecticut. Yeah, Connecticut, I was thinking Danbury as well. I got my Nadu signed hat here that I'm wearing on the show here tonight from the recording there over at Rick Houston's headquarters there during our trip. We'll have some more updates on that probably down the line here as well. Yep. There we go. And yeah, righty. All right, so yeah, we got options here again for LW Wright, Randy LaJoy, Jerry Nadu. Got a couple for Randy LaJoy. Let's see. Oh, we got a few for Randy LaJoy. Let's see. All righty. And indeed, the answer is Randy LaJoy. It is correct. You got it. Randy LaJoy is the correct answer. So there you go. How about that with Corey LaJoy on the broadcast here tonight, Norwalk, Connecticut's Randy LaJoy on that. So let's see. Who were first? Was Rain Stell? No, hang on. It was earlier there. Andrew Bremner, were you first? Yeah, that's right. We still got the Marvin Panch one on this. Yeah, Bremner. Yeah, you got it there. There we go. There's also Ted Christopher. That's true. There you go. There's another one. I mean, again, very rich heritage in different regions. But it's always interesting to kind of go over that in the sports history. And it's good that gets brought up from time to time. But there we go. Well, there's another example of it. So I'll tell you what, that will be it for the show tonight. So thank you so much, everyone, for checking out the show tonight. Congratulations to Chase Briscoe for pulling off the win today in Pocono. Riley Herbst will be your last car article later tonight. Thank you so much to Miller Tech for sponsoring the show and for the bright idea of bringing out this headlamp here on the show tonight. If you'd like a lamp like this as well with the engraved Noah Gregson autograph on it as well, and they also have some great batteries and Gregson merch, check out MillerTechEnergy.com and use code LASTCAR10 on your purchase there. They have some great Gregson merch there as well, so if you want to fly the colors for the number 4 or check out some stuff from the Stuart Haas era there as well, you can check that as well. Batteries designed and tested in the United States, including this bad boy, tested right here over at Last Car headquarters. So in the meantime, our next show is going to be next Saturday, after the Cup Series race in Atlanta. We will cover both the action there under the lights there for the Cup Series. The Truck Series are going to be at Lime Rock Park. Very excited to talk about the Northeast. That's going to be quite the show there as well. We'll have trivia and everything on the show there that night as well. In the meantime, check out my Twitter feed at Last Car on Brock. Patreon is patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock, and more videos available on this channel as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you all next week.